Hi, welcome to the video. So once again, we are back with another strange caught on camera analysis, and it's looking at Kenny Veach's Cave hike video. Yet another strange thing has been seen on camera. Now, I only saw one person who made reference to it, and it's at the 19-minute mark, and I think, 50 seconds in, right towards the end of his video, when he exits Picture Canyon, and then he stands still for a bit, saying how he couldn't find the cave, don't know why, etc, etc. And round about that point or so, he ends up putting the camera down, but as the camera is put down, it catches something in the corner of the screen, I think the bottom left, and it just looks weird and kind of out of place. So I'm going to share with you the footage now and maybe replay it a few times as well, and then let me know what you think.
Walk all the way back to my truck, which is a long, hard trip because I've got a lot of up and down to do. And that's it. I'll talk to you when I get back to my truck. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So after watching that footage a few times, I was able to get a still screenshot. As you can see, it does look kind of odd, the colour and the shape, and it does seem out of place the way it looks. Now, if we zoom in, as you can see, that is Kenny's hand, and behind it, which looks to be on the ground, is some kind of square shaped, rectangular shaped white object with a black patch in the middle. Is it some kind of badge? Is it some kind of ink? I'm not sure, but distinguishably it's dark and it stands out from the white around it. So what are we looking at here? What's the texture? Now, if we look just to the side of it, there's like some kind of light grey tube, some kind of weird cylinder. There's a bit of green as well down there. What's that all about? I'm not quite sure. There's a little bit of darkness around the edge of it as well. I don't know if that's shadowing or what, but it does look kind of weird. And we just zoom out again. You know, some people could argue maybe he is holding on to something, that tube or something, with his finger. But if we move on to the next slide frame, his hand is away from the object, or both objects. He's got an open grip, so he couldn't hold on to it anyway, because it would have fallen out his hand. If we zoom in here, it looks like it separates. And I guess like the way it looks, the white piece on the left-hand side, it kind of looks like a cloth, maybe, or some kind of towel. And that's what Jeff Klaas said himself. Maybe it's some kind of towel for him to wipe sweat off his forehead or wherever. But what's the thing on the right-hand side, the light grey? There seems to be a contrast between the colours of it. And also, what about the middle part? Is that of the ground or some kind of rock it's resting upon? Does this item split? Or the two separate pieces of things? I'm not quite sure, as you can see. So it does look like, it's on the ground, and I guess it's resting upon something, but I don't know what the object is or the material. It could be some kind of cloth, maybe some kind of bag. But let's just move on to the next slide. There you go. That is, a better contrast. I tried clearing up the image, and still it is kind of unidentifiable, if you want to call it that. But let's move on to this slide, the main one. Now this is at the very beginning of Kenny's video, and I just wanted to show you this to explain the items and bits of equipment which were caught on camera. And we'll try and compare and contrast to see whether any of these items on screen are visible in this image. Okay? So as for this one, there are two key pieces of equipment you can see on camera right now. So if I just get the magnifier up on screen, just so you can see clearer, we hover over here, you've got this key piece of equipment, as you can see, which is basically Kenny's tripod, which he did use in his video, and you may have even heard it when he was walking with it, the clunk sound, I guess, and also when he was putting it down to stop recording. So I'd say this object is not responsible for the previous unidentified object, because it's a different colour, completely different shape and height, okay? The only other bit of equipment which you do see lower down, this bit here, which is Kenny's walking hiking sticks, as you can see. So what I will say is, as for this image, those pieces of equipment aren't responsible. They aren't comparable. So let's move on to the next key slide, which could hint at the possibility of what it actually is. So this really is the only other screenshot I can use to compare to this, and I'll explain in a second. So you may have seen this shot already many times. It's where Kenny's collecting those pine nuts or whatever they are, and as you can see just to the bottom right screen, you can see pieces of his equipment. Now you can see his hiking sticks much clearer in this shot, and you can also see his backpack. Now the backpack doesn't look the same colour or shape as what's seen in this image. However, if you look a little bit closer, it's what's on the other side of it, or hiding just behind it. I don't know if you can quite see, but there's like something white with a bit of dark patchiness to it just below it on the other side of the backpack. On the right hand side of the screen in the corner, bottom corner, there seems to be some kind of white object. It's making me think, could that be of this piece? Maybe. So this is the only other way I can compare it side by side. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Are these the same item, or are they completely different? I mean, in terms of the colour, if you're pointing on the right hand side in the corner of the screen to that white thing just behind the backpack, it does look kind of similar to that on the left hand side of the screen. But I still don't understand what that like grey long cylinder type object is. So who knows? Maybe it is a towel, simply a towel for Kenny because of the hot weather. But what's that black patch on top of it? What is that? Is it a badge or what? Because normally towels are of a certain colour and bland, basically. So yeah, maybe it's some kind of camera bag, just like how Jeff Clark suggested. All possible explanations, maybe. But it's definitely not of the backpack. That's a completely different bag. So, and it looks too small to fit a tripod in. So, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Maybe it's a completely different object, but still of Kenny's. But aside from all that question and uncertainty, if it is some kind of gear equipment that Kenny just placed down by the side of him as he was recording, it makes you think, well, what else could it be? And does it have any link to other findings by other hikers out there? Let's get into that right now. So if we just take a look back at other items, piece of equipment, clothing which has been found by hikers later on when searching for Kenny Veach, could there be some kind of link to what we saw in Kenny's video, that strange object? Let's say maybe a towel or / and some kind of bag, were they found by future hikers? Well, first of all, Scott Natal. Scott Natal found the underpants, Fruit of the Loom brand. I think that's how you say it. Were they Kenny's or were they somebody else's? Not quite sure, because it was never confirmed in the end. But is there any link that can be made to that unidentified object in Kenny's video? Well, from my point of view, what I would say, if Kenny is fairly well equipped when it comes to certain gear, I guess, that towel, if it is one, would have been used to wipe away sweat and whatever off his head. Now, when Kenny went back out there, did he take that same towel with him, or did he decide to use those underpants? Most likely, probably the towel. So that would rule out the underpants being Kenny's. That's one way of looking at it. A counterpoint that can be made to that is, if, and due to maybe the circumstances and the psychological state Kenny was in at the time, if we're going down that route, maybe Kenny wasn't well equipped because he didn't have his tripod, he didn't have his main camera. He had something for taking photos only, and that was really it, and some loose change and a phone. So would he have been in the correct mindset to think, right, I need to have a backpack, I need to have a few items, food, water, and I need to have a towel to wipe away the sweat because it's hot? Would that have been going through his mind at the time? Maybe not. Maybe he forgot to take that. So when he was out there at the time, things might have got a bit desperate, uncomfortable, the weather might have been pretty bad. So he had to improvise and use something else, another bit of clothing to do the job. That's another way of looking at it. One of two ways. Now, what else? Well, if it's some kind of camera bag or some alternative backpack, we'll say, basing off what Jeff Clark suggested, that could link to that finding either by Gene, or what Gene said about finding a backpack on a road or so, I think. Could it be Kenny's? And if not that, what about the hiking channel, the Nevada Trails hiking channel, who also found a backpack somewhere within the area, didn't retrieve it, but they came across it. So could that have been Kenny's? Because even though not directly linking to this video what the subject is about, as I showed you with that previous still screenshot of the backpack of Kenny's in the bottom corner of the screen, that's Kenny's backpack. Did he use that specific backpack when Gene or the search rescue or whoever came across it, or came across a backpack? Was it the same one? Does it look the same? Are they similar? And / or, most likely or, because you can only have really one backpack of someone's, is the Nevada Hike Trails YouTube channel. When they came across that backpack, did it look the same as it does in that still image? Yes, no? I don't know personally. They would have to reach out and give their opinion. It's any way of really describing it. Now you could say, as a counterpoint, yeah, but Kenny could have changed his backpack. He might have used a completely different one on that day. Well, that is true. But, you know, like we've seen with Sean, when Sean went out one year and then the next year, he had the same backpack. You know, backpacks, pieces of equipment, clothing can last more than a year or two, or maybe 3, or maybe longer. Depends how often you use it. If it's reliable and it does the job, then you're going to keep on using it and keep a hold of it. So maybe that's what Kenny did with his backpack. And like with Sean, the only other counterpoint would be is, yeah, but we don't know when the video, well, when the hike took place. Yes, it was uploaded in 2014, but the actual, you know, hike itself could have been done a few months beforehand, maybe a few years beforehand. Maybe he had a different backpack at the time, or he changed backpacks to when he actually went on his final hike, I should be saying. That's another way of looking at it. Anything else? Well, you've got Jeff Clark in most recent time who came across that hat. I don't know what sort of style of hat that is. Is it winter wear, maybe? I'm just trying to think, is it what Russians wear or Soviet Russia? I might be completely wrong. I'm just trying to think of the flaps that come down on the sides. I think I'm describing it correctly. I haven't got the image on screen right now, so I'm just doing it from memory. But whoever was wearing that, whose could it be? Well, one thing to make note of is Kenny Veach may have worn something similar in a previous hike. I'm sure there was a screenshot, a photo somewhere of him wearing some kind of head clothing, and it kind of goes down by the side of his head. Could be the same thing or something similar. I don't know. Most likely though, it was probably somebody else, some other hiker at some point must have been wearing it because of the temperature, it being maybe colder. I don't know what the current temperature is. So if it's really hot, most likely they weren't wearing it in recent time. Maybe it was back in the past. That's kind of how you can date back, just basing it off the current weather conditions of like when Jeff Clark went out. When Jeff Clark went out, it was probably pretty hot and warm. So that hat wouldn't have been in recent time. Maybe it was a little bit before that or way back. Not quite sure. But yeah. So to just basically conclude on all that, you know, at the end of the day, from my point of view at least, and my opinion, the movement, speed, the blurriness and quality loss of the image, it is difficult to identify to exactly what it is. But there is a chance that it could be somewhat of Kenny's possessions, something he uses on his hike, maybe. It raises the question of, was that equipment, that item, that material, was that used on his other hikes? Specifically his final hike? Could those items be out there in the desert? Were they taken with him? Is the question. And if they were, has any hikers come across that sort of stuff and retrieved it or captured it on camera? Just like how Scott Natal did with his, the underpants, and Jeff Clark with the hat. Maybe. Not too sure. Just let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and maybe we can clear it up. So yeah, I'll see you next time for the next key video, which will be quite interesting because it ties up a lot. So make sure to stick around and be on the lookout for that. For now though, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.